Picture this. It's a quiet morning. You're standing at your kitchen window, coffee in hand. There's a bird sitting on the fence. Small, totally ordinary, perfectly still. And for just a moment, it turns its head. Its eye finds yours through the glass. This tiny little amber bead of light, just locked onto your face. You think nothing of it. You look away. You refill your cup. But that bird doesn't look away. Because in that half second, that one tiny moment your eyes met, something was happening inside that little skull. Something so precise, so layered, honestly so weirdly intelligent that if you actually knew what was going on, you'd never look at a backyard bird the same way again. It didn't just see you, it filed you. Most people, when a bird glances their way, assume it's picking up something vague, a shape, a color, maybe just movement, some big thing to avoid or ignore. That assumption is wrong. And here's the thing, what's actually happening is so much more specific than that. You might think, okay, it's a bird, brain the size of a grape. How sophisticated can it really be? But that comparison kind of misses the whole point. Because the question was never about size, it's about what that brain specializes in. And birds, specifically, they specialize in you, in the actual geometry of your face, the rhythm of how you move, the emotional signals your body is sending out, ones you're not even aware of. Researchers have been studying this for decades, and honestly, the results are unsettling in the best possible way. The bird on your fence isn't just reacting, it's running a system. Ancient, incredibly refined, and almost eerily accurate. Here's why this actually matters. Every time you walk out into your backyard, you're being assessed, not in some vague, instinctive way, but by a creature that has spent millions of years evolving to read the one thing it encounters every single day that could either help it survive or get it killed: a face. Your face. This isn't just a fun nature fact. This is a window into a hidden layer of the world that exists right outside your door. And once you understand what's actually going on, once you see the machinery working underneath that tiny tilted head, something shifts. It kind of feels like finding out that what you always thought was background noise was actually a conversation the whole time, and it was about you. Here is the humanized version. If that idea doesn't make you want to go outside and just stand very still for a minute, stick with this, because it genuinely gets stranger from here. And if this is your first time on a channel, this is kind of what we do. You'll want to be around for what's coming next. So let's actually start inside the bird's head. What's happening in there when it looks at you? There's a structure in the avian brain called the hyperpallium. And for a long time, scientists basically assumed birds were running on reflex. Visual input comes in, motor output goes out. Simple. Done. But then imaging technology got better, and something showed up that nobody really expected. The neural pathways handling social recognition in birds, specifically recognizing individual faces, were way more active, way more complex than anyone had assumed. A crow, for instance, can tell apart hundreds of different human faces, and not by hats, not by clothing, by the actual arrangement of features on the face, the distance between the eyes, the shape of the jaw, the way light lands across someone's cheekbones. And here's the part that tends to quietly unsettle people the first time they hear it. That recognition isn't slow. It doesn't happen gradually. The moment your face hits the visual processing center of that bird's brain, it's already being checked against a database. And if you've ever been in its territory before, even just once, even briefly, it finds a match. It already knows who you are. So that raises the obvious question, right? What does it do with that? Back in 2011, researchers at the University of Washington ran one of the more fascinating experiments you'll come across in behavioral science. A team put on rubber masks, plain, unremarkable human faces, and went out to handle crow nests. The crows were disturbed. Eggs were counted. Researchers left. Then, weeks later, those same masks went back on. Same campus, normal walk, no interaction with any nests. The crows lost it. Mobbing, scolding, dive bombing. And here's what makes it really interesting. Birds that had never even been there for the original encounter joined in, because the information had already been passed along. The crows who remembered had told others, specifically, which face to watch for. This wasn't random aggression. This was coordinated, targeted. And years later, those original crows still recognized the masks. Meanwhile, the researchers wearing a completely neutral mask, just walking through, were totally ignored. The grudge wasn't against people in general. It was against that face. Whoever wore it. And this is where it starts to get genuinely strange. Birds don't just hold this information privately, somewhere in their own memory. There's growing evidence they actually encode it, vocally, through alarm calls, contact calls, what researchers call mobbing chatter. They're passing information about you through sound. Different frequencies carry different levels of urgency. Different rhythms signal different kinds of threat. And over time, within a local flock, a bird's specific history with a specific human seems to get woven into the daily acoustic fabric of the group. So when a magpie spots you crossing the yard, one that has a bad history with your face, its alarm call sounds different from the one it makes for a cat, or a hawk, or just some stranger walking past. And the other birds in the area don't just flee blindly, they orient. They look for the specific shape of the threat. They look for you. You are, in their language, a category of warning, a named frequency, in a sound you can't even hear. Okay, so how long does any of this actually last? Honestly, longer than feels comfortable. Studies on corvids, crows, ravens, magpies, jays show individual recognition that holds for years. There are documented cases of crows maintaining the same aversive response to a specific human face for over a decade. Think about what that means for a second. A crow living in your neighborhood right now might be carrying information about your face from an interaction you've completely forgotten. Something small, something you didn't even register as significant. Maybe you startled it off a fence post 3 winters ago, and it still has you filed under "Proceed with caution." Meanwhile, your neighbor, the one who quietly puts seed out every morning, has a completely different classification, different neural response, different signals going out to the flock. And the part that kind of gets me, your reputation in that bird community was built without you ever consciously participating in it. It came from small things, your posture, the way you make eye contact, your pace, how predictable you are. You have a record out there. You just never knew you were being assessed. Those crow mask studies opened a door, and other researchers walked right through it. They ran similar experiments with mockingbirds, pigeons, gulls, different species, same basic idea. And the pattern held, just scaled differently. Mockingbirds in cities could pick out individual researchers and go after them specifically based on whether that person had messed with their nest before, not humans in general, that human. Meanwhile, someone the exact same size who'd never touched the nest, ignored completely. Urban pigeons, birds most people write off as basically furniture, could tell apart someone who'd shooed them from a total stranger. And they'd adjust how close they let that specific person get before flying off. Then came the detail that kind of reframes everything. In several of these experiments, researchers tried changing just the hat, keeping the same face. The birds tracked the face. Then they switched it. Same clothes, same body type, different face. No special response. Nothing. Clothing? Largely irrelevant. Body type? Rough signal at best. It was the face, only the face, that carried the information they needed. And here's what that actually means. Every time you look at a bird, it's running the most sophisticated recognition system it has. And that system is pointed directly at the thing evolution spent millions of years teaching it to pay attention to. Not your jacket, not how tall you are, your face. And now when you step back a little, the picture starts to get bigger. Think about the birds in your neighborhood not as individual animals, but as a network, a kind of distributed memory system spread out across trees and rooftops and telephone wires, each one holding pieces of data, a face, a pattern, an emotional tag, and constantly sharing it through that code of sound you hear every single morning without realizing it has names in it. And here's the thing, that network was already running before you got there. It existed before you moved into the neighborhood, before you ever stepped outside. And on the day you first walked out into your yard, and some bird on a branch turned to look at you, a process started, quietly. And it's been building ever since. You see a flock. They see you. Specifically, individually, with history, which means there's one more thing worth sitting with. Here's what all of this research is really pointing at. And honestly, it's the kind of idea that tends to stick around after you hear it. Birds aren't watching your face because they're scared of you. They're watching your face because your face is the single most important variable in their environment. You're bigger than them. You're unpredictable. You show up and disappear without any warning. So understanding you, specifically you, your face, your patterns, what mood you seem to be in, that's not just curiosity for them. That's survival. But here's the other side of that. Every moment of calm you've given them, every time you moved slowly through the yard, every time you put food out without sudden movements, every time you just sat there and let them get used to you, that was recorded, not as a figure of speech. Neurologically, in the actual physical memory of animals that can live 10, 20 years and pass what they know on to their young, you've been building a reputation among non-human minds, a reputation built entirely on your face and how you behave. And it spreads, it persists. It shapes how an entire little ecosystem outside your door responds to your presence. You're not just observed by birds, you're known by them. Go back to that quiet morning, the bird on the fence, that small amber eye finding yours through the glass. You thought it was nothing, just a still moment, an ordinary thing. It wasn't. In that half-second, a mind far older than language looked at your face and did exactly what minds have always done with faces. It tried to figure out what you were going to do next, whether you were safe, whether you were a threat, whether you were the one who sometimes brings something worth waiting for. The bird already had a file on you. The only question is what's written in it.